So the shelves are in disarray. This video is going to be so long. Oh my goodness. Why did I have to read so many good books? Y'all, check out the shelves. Check out the shelves. Honey, what is happening? All right, grab your tea, grab your coffee. Let's not make this intro any longer than it needs to be. Get your snacks. Timestamps are below, as always. Books linked below, as always. Feel free to skip around, whatever you need to do, because this is my favorite books of 2022. Let's do it. All right, so I'm gonna have my iPad. As always, I gotta have notes. But I've got my iPad. So I had like 56 books that I rated 5 stars. So, but today we're going to talk about like 30 something, okay? Because I went through and said, okay, this really should have been 4, you know what I'm saying? Because my thoughts have changed a little bit on some of them. But hey, that's fine. We're going to just talk about my top ones. And I don't have like anything in order. Like, I don't know that I could do a top 10. Maybe next year I'll try to narrow that down. But like this year, I just love these books and want to talk about them. So yeah, a lot of you all will have heard all my thoughts on these, but I love being able to do a full video just dedicated to my favorite books this year. The shelves are really in disarray, okay? And I'm going to go through them in the order I read them this year. And some you'll be able to tell I love more than others, but it's okay. Let's get into it. The first book, and probably is in my top 5 of the year, is Diana Gabaldon's Go Tell the Bees That I'm Gone. This is book 9 in Outlander series. I absolutely loved this so much. It was just so different. So many people have said that they felt like it was boring, but I loved it personally just because of all the family vibes. And yes, some parts did drag. In every Outlander book, there are parts that drag. There are point of views I don't care about as much. But this story, I gave it 5 stars because, first of all, we hadn't had a book in a long time from her. And I was just so hyped, I guess. I don't know. I just loved, like, the family vibes in the first half of this. Just my heart. I already want to reread it, okay? There was just something so special about Claire and Jamie and their family and just everybody being back together. And it just made me happy. That's all I can say without saying, I can't really say much about it. It's book 9, you know, but it's 902 pages. It's a weapon. And for those of you who don't know, Outlander is an adult book, does have trigger warnings. If you're going to read anything in the Outlander series, I want you to look up the trigger warnings and decide for yourself. It's not clean at all, but I just want to mention that. Most everything I read is clean for the most part, but that is something that's been in my heart forever, so just saying. I can't give it up. It's my favorite series of all time. Just love Jamie and Claire. Y'all, most of y'all already know this, but if you're new to my channel, just making you aware of that, okay? Most of y'all already know about Outlander and the trigger warnings, but look it up in case you are interested in it. I don't want somebody to go out there and read something that I'm recommending without knowing, hey, there's explicit content and it's triggering, okay? The next book is... I'm going to talk about the whole trilogy here instead of just saying each individual book. The whole trilogy here of If I Run by Terry Blackstock is a 5-star trilogy. I love this trilogy so much. It was really the first mystery that I read this year, and it got me into loving mystery, suspense, all of the things. It's all about Casey. Is it Casey? Yeah. Okay, here we go. It's all about Casey Cox. Her DNA is found at the crime scene. Her best friend has been killed. She's on the run. She leaves because she doesn't trust the police because of circumstances surrounding her father's death. And the story goes on from there. She meets this guy, Dylan. He's like trying to investigate and help the police, but he starts to realize things ain't what they seem. There's kind of a romance. We love to see it. It was just so, like, I devoured these books. And how did I not remember that this is a trilogy that I finished? Go girl. I mean, when I was talking about that tag about trilogies, this is a favorite trilogy, so my bad. But yeah, I think book 3 I gave 4.5. This one I gave 5. I can't remember if the second one was 5, but they're all really great. And it's just a really good time. The faith content in this is phenomenal. So we love it, okay? We love a good Terry Blackstock. Next book that I'm going to talk about is 2 books together, okay? And that is The Librarian of Boone's Hollow and Return to Boone's Hollow by Kim Vogel Sawyer. These are Christian. These are historical romance. my heart. I was here. I was crying in both of these books. They are so good. These have great faith content and just great characters that you can connect to. This story is basically following so many different characters. We've got Addie, Emmett, Nanny Faye, and Bettina. And that's in the first book. And you do see them again later on. And this is set in the 1930s and is primarily focused on Addie and Emmett. Addie is a girl who is at college, and she soon realizes that her parents don't have the money anymore to pay for her tuition, so she has to leave and get a job. So she ends up going back to Boone's Hollow and becomes a librarian by horseback. And the story kind of goes on from there. We're learning all about the struggles that the families are having. She's trying to find her place in this new town and her new job. She meets Emmett. She's not really received very well in the community just because she lives with Nanny Faye. And there's just all these things. People don't really love Nanny Faye, but I love Nanny Faye. I don't know. I just think this is a perfect story of faith and forgiveness and love and family, and the setting being in Kentucky. It's like that Appalachian setting. Your girl's here. So yeah, I highly recommend these. We have The Lady of Galway Manor by Jennifer Dibble. I absolutely love her books. I've read both of them. She has a new one coming out next year that I'm excited about. And I already have the NetGalley arc on my Kindle. I can't wait to read it. But this is set in 1920 Ireland. All her books are set in Ireland, which is awesome. I love all Ireland and Scotland stories, so, you know, I'm here for this. But this is a historical romance. It's Christian, and I just loved it in my heart. I think I like her first book better, but this one was still so good. They both have good faith content, and this one is all about Lady Annabeth de Lacy and her father. Her father's a new landlord of Galway Parish, and so they go in, and she ends up being an apprentice at a jewelry shop for this guy Stephen, and he was actually going to leave at the whole beginning of the story, but she comes in and he ends up staying, and like they're working together, getting to know each other. The story kind of goes on from there, and it was just a great story of faith. There's all this like political intrigue with her dad, and there's this will they won't they thing. Stephen's dad, Seamus, was just a little sweet bean. He's in my heart forever. The ending was phenomenal, and that's all I'm gonna say because I love this so much, y'all. I cannot recommend her enough. Like, I talked a lot about her on my channel. If you like historical, I think you'd love this, but I really like the way she does her faith content, and the romance is always cute. But I do like her first one, A Dance at Donegal, a little bit better than this one, but still, they're both great. Then we have The Magician's Nephew by C.S. Lewis. Narnia. What else is there to say? But I just love this. I love the sweet kids and just like the journey they take, the magical vibes. I was here for it. I said in my goals video, I'm planning on reading all of Narnia in 2023. Then we have Forever Boy by Kate Swenson. As you all know, my son does have autism, and so this is a mother's memoir to autism and finding joy. I needed this book. Like, I will reread this. I needed this book so much in my life for what I was going through and still going through at the time, but primarily that first little bit of early diagnosis and how to cope and how to handle things in your marriage and try to work together as a team for your child who has been diagnosed with autism. I mean, you don't, what you think you know, you don't when you first get into everything and learning everything. How to help your child be the most successful person that they can be. And this book truly helped me. If you or know anybody going through this, I highly recommend this. Her son, Cooper, is 11 or 12 years old now. Finding Cooper's Voice, that is her Instagram name. I love them so much because they just share their heart so openly, and it just makes you see that you're not alone in your journey through autism and your family, and no matter what you're going through, there's other people out there going through the same things. We're all in this together. And her son, he is unable to speak. He uses a speech device. He has severe autism. But like I said, this book just really helped me in such a time in my life. So yeah, I give this 5 stars. It's just a great nonfiction read about her life and what her and her husband went through. They managed to make it through. Y'all, I just can't even recommend this enough for anybody going through that. So then we have Until Leaves Fall in Paris by Sarah Sundin. This is my first Sarah Sundin book, and a lot of y'all love this. It's come out this year. I love the cover. It's just something about sorry, I just thought about, y'all know that reel, historical, a woman walking away. Y'all see the reel? This guy's like, hey, here's all the historical books. I'm looking for one that has a woman walking away. Anyway, I don't know what it is about the covers. Anyway, hey, but they look good. So, anyway, this was a great story of love, war, and friendship. I love the romance in this so much. This is set in 1940, Nazi-occupied France. Like, the Nazis are going to France at the time, at the beginning of this. And this woman, what's her name? Hold on. Lucy, wasn't it? Yeah, Lucy Gerard. Lucy buys this bookstore from her Jewish friends so they can escape to freedom, because they know once Nazis come to France, it's over for them. So they're trying to escape and run and get to safety. The only way she can really keep the bookstore afloat is she is allowing these people to, in the resistance, to pass messages along throughout the pages of the books, like notes and stuff. So she's helping in that way. And then we end up meeting this guy, Paul, and he is a widower, and he is helping in the resistance in his own way. And he has a little 3 or 4 year old, I can't remember, she's a little girl, Josie. And it was so sweet just to see that father-daughter relationship and what they were going through and how they meet Lucy, and everything kind of goes on from there. They all kind of get intertwined, and the story in here is beautiful. I love the romance in this so much. The ending was so good. The next book that I read, I don't own. It's I borrowed it from the library, but it's called Rain, Rain by Anna Martin. And this is the first book I ever read by her. I think she's wrote Babysitter's Club and stuff, but I never read those. But this is a middle grade, and I cried. This book is about a little girl who has Asperger's, which they don't diagnose that anymore. They diagnose as autism today. And so I think they stopped doing that in 2013. But she has Asperger's, and her name's Rose. And she lives with her dad and her dog. And her dog was named Rain. And the reason they call this Rain, Rain is because she's obsessed with homonyms. So that's her whole thing, is like, you know, there are kids with autism that they get obsessed with, like, have like certain high interest that they get obsessed with. And so hers was homonyms. And so throughout the book, you know, the first part is kind of like trying to get your feel for like how the homonyms work and everything. But that was fine once I got going. And the part about this story that just touched my heart was just how precious she was and innocent, and everything she was going through was so impactful to me. And then the bond that Rose has with her uncle, Precious, just so understanding for her, and he really cared about her well-being. And the stuff that she was going through with her dad was hard. You know, this book truly shined a light on us learning more about an autistic child's difficulties and their struggles, and just being a struggling, frustrated parent. Like, I truly empathized with this dad in this story, because he was so frustrated and he just needed help on how to deal with what he was going through. How important it was for this child to get help in her school. Like, she didn't have an IEP or anything. Like, there's so much need for that in a lot of schools. I know a lot of parents with autism, they struggle getting an IEP for their child, and just so much struggles there for the parents. So this really touched on a lot of that, and I definitely appreciated that. Appreciate Rose's story here, and it just touched my heart. So yeah, I definitely would want to reread it at some point in my life. Speaking of autism stories, I also read Unlocked by Karen Kingsbury this year. Cried like a baby within the first page. Like, I was just out. This is all about a 19-year-old boy, Holden, and he is autistic. He is not able to speak. And can music help unlock his speech in this story? And that's really the premise. There's this girl that he used to be friends with. You see her and him in the music class together. She's starting to be an ally to help him, and he is bullied, and there's so much just things that you're made aware of for these kids in school. And the struggling mother really just, I'm gonna tell you right now, like, it really touched me. I just thinking about some of the stuff she was saying in the first chapter, I could relate. And so, I don't know, just the prologue made me cry, because she's talking about, like, the comparison of, like, you know, the trap you fall in, and just all the struggles she went through, and her and her husband, and just everything. And it was just, my heart went out in this story. Like, I needed this story. And you know what's wild is I didn't even realize I've had this book for a long time, before I even had a kid. And I randomly picked it up for a readathon. And it was like the Lord was pushing me to this story. And that's why it was so important to me, I think. What I liked about this is we got chapters where we heard what he was thinking. And that was so nice to see, because there's still today, my son can't really say much to me. So it's just like, what is he thinking? What's he want? You know, it's a lot of guessing and stuff, and like hand holding and things like that, and trying to, like, you know, him bringing your hand to where he wants you to go and that kind of stuff. And I don't think he'll be fully nonverbal, but because he is saying some things, but it's like there's a communication delay and struggles there. And so it was so nice to see chapters from his point of view in a way, just so you could kind of get inside his head and see what he was going through. And the ending was so precious. And some people, I get it, it's cheese, but it was so good, and it just touched this mama's heart. So, okay, let me have it, okay? Because I've seen a lot of people's reviews. I was like, it's fine. But for me, it just touched my heart because of what I've been through and are going through still. So the next books on this are 2 books, a duology, Waves of Mercy, Book 1, Legacy of Mercy, Book 2. Love these so much. I talked so much about these recently. Highly recommend the audiobooks for these because I can't pronounce nothing hardly. They're both Christian historical romance stories. And I would say it says historical fiction. So these are more historical than romance, I would say. We're following Keisha, Anna, and Dirk in 1897, Holland, Michigan. Sorry, gotta look at my notes. And Keisha is like writing down the memories of her life for this Centennial Project. And she lived in the Netherlands 50 years ago. And so the author really just weaved together the 2 stories great. You're seeing Anna and Dirk. Anna don't know if she, like, her marriage situation. She don't know if she wants to marry this guy. She meets Dirk, who works at the hotel. She's new to her faith, and she wants to know all about her faith, but she's having some trouble with her husband. Soon-to-be husband, my bad. And so she's like, they don't really agree on things, and there's lots of, like, back and forth. And Keisha, her past and her story with her husband and her daughter and just Christina and everything was just like popping off. I was like, oh my gosh. I was just like, every little thing that they went through, wow. Like, and it just made you realize that God, your will for your life is not always God's will, and that's okay. And Keisha went through some hard things, and the way she adapted to that change and those circumstances was so amazing. The Lord was moving. She was still just in her faith and trusting the Lord. It was so good. And then in book 2, continue on with Anna and Dirk and Keisha, and you have already learned how they're all tied together. It's great. And Keisha's helping this other 17-year-old girl and her grandfather. She has like this hard past. I already talked about it recently. There's just so much going on. It's hard to explain in one video, you know, like in a few minutes here. It's really hard to kind of tell you, but you know, there's just the faith content in this is top tier. Me and Bailey have talked a lot about these books, and they really are in our top 10 of the year. I would say, like, there's something about the story in here touched my heart in such a way. So I highly recommend them. If you like historical, you're going to love these. I can't recommend them enough. This video too long. Anyway, so the next books on my list are Becky Wade, Stay With Me is book 1. Let It Be Me is book 2. Read this in May or April sometime. And then read this recently in December. I'm saying. I love these, y'all. Becky Wade is such an amazing storyteller. In this one, we are following Genevieve and, what's his name? Sam. Genevieve and Sam, and she pretty much ends up, she's taking some pills. She has a drug problem with pills, and so she ends up pulling in one night at this, like, I can't remember if it's a farmhouse or something. Yeah, some secondary home. Cottage. Yeah, it's a cottage. Okay. She pulls in there, and she ends up passing out and going to sleep, and Sam finds her in there in this little cottage. He's like, hey, what's happened? And he ends up finding the pills in her car. He ends up knowing about her issues, and he keeps it private, but she basically says, hey, will you let me stay here in this cottage so I can get clean? And he agrees. Beautiful story of faith, redemption, and finding yourself. Becky Wade tackles these tough topics, and I appreciate them so much. It's more than just your typical romance. She's tackling the topic of opioid addiction, which is so well needed to talk about. and she's paired it with God's redemption, his love, and his grace. Highly recommend this. And then book 2 is Let It Be Me. This follows some characters from here as well. And my heart, I absolutely love Leah and Sebastian. I've already talked about this pretty recently. So, you know, Leah is trying to figure out her birth story pretty much, and Sebastian is helping her because she realized the DNA test said her parents were her parents, and everything goes off from there. And yeah, we love it. They're just great romance reads. And like I said, I've already said this about Becky Wade, but she tackles other topics mixed in with these romance, like real life stuff, and I really appreciate that and love that. So these are great Christian romance reads. And we have Tamielle Gray, Loving a Little White Lie and Loving the Silver Lining. Now I know my disappointed reads video, y'all, I said I didn't love book 3 in this, but book 1 and 2, they knocked it out of the park for me. First of all, the covers, you already know. But this one, these books have just such great Christian faith content in them. So they are Christian romance reads and just some of my most loved books this year. I love both of them. I don't even know which one I like more, honestly. It's hard to say. Maybe this one. I don't know. It's just too hard to answer that. But, you know, this deals with a girl, January. Her name's January, so she is an atheist, and so she ends up going to work at a church, and she's trying to like hide that she's an atheist. She meets this guy, and there's kind of like a love triangle going on here, and the guy she ends up with, I love him so much. Okay, so yeah, everything in her story was just so impactful. She starts learning more about the Lord, and it's got just a beautiful salvation story. I highly recommend. And then we got this book right here. It's got Darcy and what was his name? Bryson. Yeah, it's got Darcy and Bryson, and we have another guy in here still. We got another guy in here. He's just chilling, and there's another love triangle. Okay, and it was funny. It's wild, but we're following Darcy. Her mission trip has been canceled. And so she was looking forward to that. Quit her job. She's gave up her apartment. And now she's got to figure out what to do next. She was devastated. And so her parents' recent divorce is weighing on her. And so, you know, she's just trying to find the silver lining of her life, right? She's questioning so many things like in her faith. And it's just, I don't know, maybe I do like this one more. But the love triangle in here is still done really well. I mean, that's the one thing about her is she does love triangles so well where they don't feel like too much of a traditional love triangle. They're just so good. If you're a dog lover though, you're gonna love this because Darcy jumped at the chance to help train dogs. It's a good time. Like, they're just really great Christian romance reads, and I highly recommend them. The top Christian nonfiction read this year was Gentle and Lowly by Dane Ortland. I absolutely love this. I was able to be on the live show with Chrisette Books and Jams. I'll link some of the live shows down below. But this is just an amazing read. This whole book is based on the scripture, "Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." This book just had me encouraged in the Lord, and I grew in my faith, but also I was convicted at times. Like, this is a really good Christian nonfiction read. It just dives deep into the heart of Christ and how he sees us, and I loved it. So yeah, Gentle and Lowly by Dane Ortland. And then we have Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring. One of my goals is to finish the series, okay? Book 2 and 3 next year. But, you know, how do you even give a review on this? I don't know. But basically, the whole Fellowship just in my heart forever, okay? Middle Earth is just my favorite fictional world. You already know I had the Middle Earth wedding. It's just something in my heart. I love the narration of these, too, because Andy Serkis, who plays Gollum, he's come out with a recent narration. So good. I feel like Tolkien's writing is always just poetic, and it just really grabs at me. This will be a book that every time you reread it, you get something else. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so much going on in the world here that I'm sure I'm missing. So I want to kind of dive a little bit more into Tolkien's world next year, but something about the Shire and the hobbits, the elves, the Fellowship, the humbleness of Sam, the friendship between Sam and Frodo, Merry and Pippin, the funniness of them, like the songs, just everything in here is just so, it's amazing. And it's a journey that if you've never taken, I highly recommend you do. Even if you watch the movies first, right? Like, watch the movies first and then go to the book if you're not sure. I mean, this is a fantasy book, but there's just something about the writing that gets at me. I guess because I just love the movie so much, I was able to kind of get into the book. But yeah, I love it. All right, the next book is Where the Road Bends by Rachel Fordham. This Y'all, this book was such a surprise. I did not expect to love this as much as I did. It's a historical romance, and I love the romance, okay? So, this was my first Rachel Fordham read, and I really want to read more of her books. Let me look at my notes, though, because it's been a little bit. So, yeah, this was set in 1880, Iowa, and this girl, yeah, Quincy and Nora. Okay, here we go. So, Nora, she is on her property. She's about to lose her property. She's promised to marry this man, because he can help her save her property, all this stuff. And Quincy, she ends up finding this man Quincy on her land. Something's wrong. He's hurt, passed out on her land. And so she takes him in to help heal him. He wakes up and everything's like, uh-oh, we can't let nobody know about this, because back then, if they knew she was like helping this man in her house, that's a big no-no. So she helps nurse him back to health, and he leaves, and she thinks nobody knows about it, but then everybody finds out about it. He didn't know nobody knew about it, and so things go crazy. She don't get married to that man. She loses her house. You don't know where she is. Quincy found something in the pocket that he needs to return to her, and when he goes to go back to her home, she ain't there, and he's on the hunt for her. That's the best way I can say it. So everything goes on from there. It's all in the first little bit. So yeah, and he's on this like journey to find her, and the Lord truly worked in this book. I love this. It's one of my favorite historical romances, and I found this at the library sale for 50 cents. I was so happy. Oh, it really is a good read. I highly recommend it. I don't think people talk about it enough. Then we got The Testament by John Grisham. Hey, so this is a hidden gem. This is an Oshina recommendation. I never would have known about this had she not recommended it. Like, the narration of this is great too, by the way. I love the ending of this. It has good faith content. This is not like a Christian read, but it has faith content in it, and it's great. This is all about a man. His name's Troy, and he has like an $11 billion fortune. Y'all, everybody want his money. And I found myself, me and Chrissy both have said this. We love a good somebody die, everybody fighting over the money. Plot. We love it. And it's like, uh-oh. And or there's like a will, and like just trying to figure out all the details of the will, and there's some like mystery surrounding the will. Who knows? But the very intro to this is insane. You read the first couple chapters, you're gonna be hooked on this, okay? Troy ends up dying. There's all this controversy around his will. His $11 billion fortune. He didn't want it to go to all his wives, ex-wives, and kids, and all this stuff, because he didn't care for them. All they cared about was the money. And so when he dies, his will's supposed to go to this girl. What was her name? Was it Rachel? Yeah. It's supposed to go to Rachel. And they can't find Rachel. She's like a missionary in Brazil, was it? Yeah. Hey, look at me. She's invited. I can't. She is a missionary in Brazil. So this guy, Nate O'Reilly, is hired to go try to find her and to execute his will. And everything goes on from there. Rachel was such a beautiful example of Christ's love and mercy, and just everything at the end of this made me cry. I cried. So yeah, I highly recommend The Testament, John Grisham. The audio's great. Y'all read it, read it, read it. And my review does say there are a few swear words in it. Just be aware of if that's something that bothers you, but it didn't bother me. Do I need to say anything? I have a whole review on this. I've hyped this the whole year. Like, this is one book that I feel like I've got so many people to read. But whether you love it or not, I got you to read it, didn't I? Yeah, The Extraordinary Death of Mrs. Kit by Sarah Brunsfold. And Sarah is just an amazing, amazing person. I talked to her on Instagram, and she was so kind to send a sweet book plate for my book. She was so nice. And so she even sent an extra book plate that I was able to give to a friend for their book. It's just so nice. This is all about Aiden Kelly, and she is assigned to basically write an obituary about Clara Kipp, and she goes to meet Clara Kipp. Clara is a spitfire. She's crazy, but she's so much fun, and we learn all about her life and her past, and just how extraordinary she truly was in her life. And you know she's dying, but she has some life to live still, you know. And Clara is telling her journey with the Lord. There's so much good faith content in this. Like, I don't know. It just touched my heart. So, read it. That's all I can say. I feel like I talk about this enough. So, you know, we have 40-something minutes. I'm going to have to edit a lot of this out. But read Clara Kipp's story. You will not regret it. God really brought Clara and Aiden together for a reason. And it was a beautiful story. So, Yeah, highly recommend. Then we have got Heart of the Mountains and Laurel's Dream. I gave this one 4.5 stars, but I gave this one 5 stars. So I talked mostly about this one because it was more my favorite, but this is set in the Blue Ridge Mountains, which is like the Appalachian area. And we have Cora, Taylor, and Jeb McAdams in this story. Whereas here we were following Jonathan Taylor and Laurel McAdams. So like you're following the siblings of the main characters here, right? Since I live in Tennessee, y'all already know the Appalachian setting was like, for me, it's Pepper Basham. Anything she writes, I figured out I'm gonna love. So Cora is pretty much escaping a forced marriage from England to the Blue Ridge Mountains to find her brother. When she runs into Jeb, everything goes on from there. Great romance. I love the romance so much. It was so good. I really want to know more about the family members. I remember I was like, ooh, I want to know more about this sister, and there's just so much. I hope she continues on with this story because these were just such great books, great mountain stories, great faith content. It's the love, romance, the family, everything in these books make me happy. So yeah, highly recommend Christian historical romance. Hey, you would love to see it. Next, we got the Spy Family books. I loved book 1, and so that's the one I want to talk about. Book 1 is all about a spy, a telepath, and an assassin. We love to see it. Anya is a sweet little girl. She's a telepath. She ends up becoming part of the family with a spy and an assassin, okay? And so everything goes on from there. I just love these stories. Like, not every book in the Spy Family series is like 5 stars. Some of them in the later side is more like 3 and 4 stars. But I still have enjoyed my time in reading Spy Family. It's a good manga. I'd say it's more for like an adult versus younger just because of some of the violence that happens in it and some of the language here and there. But it's still really good, like a story. I still want to continue on and kind of figure out what happened. And then we've got My Stubborn Heart by Becky Wade. Okay, so another 5-star book by Becky Wade. So, I mean, every one of her books is top tier. In this one, we're following Kate, and she takes a 3-month leave of absence from her job to accompany her grandmother to Pennsylvania to restore this old home. And when she gets there, the guy who's restoring the home, honey, his name Matt. He's a former hockey player. Y'all already know him. But Matt has gone through some really hard things. He lost his wife. It's really early on, you know that. And he's just trying to cope, and I don't think he's ever recovered. And so when Kate comes in, he's just, I don't know, bringing back old memories, and he's trying to figure out how to let go. Lord was just so good. Again, Becky Wade's tackling some tough topics, y'all. This was so emotional. Oh my gosh, I cried. A buddy read this with Amy at Pretty Little Paperbacks. Me and her talked so much about this, all the things in this, and all the characters. Like, just some of the side characters in this were so funny. Like, she brings some good humor in this, and some hard things that Matt was going through and having to try to heal from. And then Kate coming in, and it's like Kate, that God brought them together when he needed her, and it was a beautiful story. So I highly recommend My Stubborn Heart because my heart, they were so cute. Then we have Pride and Prejudice. I'm not gonna spend too much time on this because I did a vlog. Y'all already seen the Book Lover Amanda version of Pride and Prejudice TV show reaction. The 1995 adaptation is gold. I really want to watch the 2005 movie still. This is hilarious. It's almost like the first romantic comedy, someone said, so I highly agree with that. And the reading of this, I had a hard time at first. The audio is the way to go. I love Mr. Bennett, Mr. Darcy, Elizabeth, Mr. Bingley, and Jane. They're great characters. It's just so timeless for me. Like, if you have a hard time reading classics, you know, some of the language in this was hard for me, but I still, the audio really helped. But I watched the show first, and then I knew kind of more what's happening here. So, yeah. Pride and Prejudice is a classic, okay? It really is a good classic. Okay? Got All That Really Matters and All That It Takes by Nicole Deese. First of all, these covers, yes ma'am. This one just won a Christie Award. We love to see it. These books are so good. They are just great story characters, great Christian romance, everything here. These are contemporary romance. This one's all about Molly McKenzie. She has this fun personality. She's all about fashion and all this stuff. So she's kind of like social media influencer, right? And so she's got her manager who's her boyfriend, and all this stuff's happening. And he's like, hey, she's got an upcoming audition for this show, and he says, you need to have some kind of charity to make you stuff look good. So just so she can gain an edge on her competitors here, she's like going out to a program for aged out foster kids. And she meets this awesome director, Silas Whitaker. We love to see it, okay? And so everything goes on from there. She starts pretty much realizing all that really matters in life, and with these kids and the foster system and everything, and she really learns how to use her skills to help these kids, and everything goes wild, okay? The ending of this was so good. Y'all, I could reread this. I love this book, okay? So then in this book, we're following her assistant, Val. Val worked for Molly in this book, and she has moved across the country, honey, with her son, and everything's getting crazy in the first week she's there. She's just trying to figure out everything in her career, you know, and get settled in. Had this guy Miles come in. He's a pastor, and he has a new tenant who is Val, and everything goes on from there. Val and Miles went through some really tough things, like in their jobs, like they were doing lots of twists and turns, trying to figure out what they want to do in life. And so, yeah, 5 stars on both of these. Like, y'all, these are just really great books. I highly recommend them. Then we got By Way of the Moonlight by Elizabeth Musser. Did a whole review on this, so I'm not going to spend too much time. But this is a generational story that tells the story of 2 women that share their love for their family, horses, and what matters most in life. So Allie Massey, she has dreamt of making her grandparents' property into a trauma recovery center using equine therapy with horses. And I did not know anything about that when I first went into this. That was so interesting to learn about. And it really just brought to light how equine therapy can help people. And this was just a dream her grandmother, Nana Dale, had just in her heart as a young girl. And it was, so Allie's trying to make all this come to pass. And so her grandmother had passed away, and Allie is shocked to learn that somehow the property has been sold to a developer, and things get crazy from there. So we're following those 2 stories. It's like a dual timeline. You're learning all about Nana Dale's life in the Great Depression, in World War II, and all this stuff, and everything she went through. It touched in on Nana Dale's life with this man, Tommy, and I cried with this, everything. Like, I love that story more than anything. Like, that could have been a whole book itself. Like, the stuff with Allie was whatever. I was so much more involved with Nana Dale's past. I just always am with these dual timelines. Like, there's just something about the way the author did this dual timeline that just made my heart wow. And like the way she interweaved it together was just chef's kiss, okay? Allie, I did like her. I liked how she cared so much to figure out everything about her grandmother's story, no matter what anybody told her. So, cause she was kind of obsessed with it, and people were like, you need to kind of put this to bed. And she's like, I ain't doing this. So yeah, just so good. So good. And if you like horses, you're really gonna like this. Then we're getting into A Quilt for Christmas. So this is, I'm in my September reads. Quilt for Christmas by Melody Carlson. I have not loved any other Melody Carlson book as much. Like, they're just fine so far, but this one I really liked. I don't know. I guess because it doesn't have a romance in the center here, we've kind of got like a different type of story here. We have a romance in here a little bit, but you know, when she does romance, it's just almost too much cheese. Like, I like cheese, but like, it's fine. Older woman named Vera, she loves Christmas. She's not with her family. She's helping make a quilt for this little girl's family who's like, you know, they're having struggles at Christmas because they just moved into town, and it's just, it's heartwarming, you know? Like, there's just something about this one that is different than her other books. We have some friendship. We have a woman in here who, deep inside, that, you know something's wrong with her, but she's like pushing out her anger to the world and really short-tempered with people, and you're like, you know, you realize soon what it is, and it's heartbreaking. And so all of these people are trying to be as, you know, supportive as they can be through anger and her shortness with them. There wasn't a lot of faith content in this, but there was some, a little bit, but just like the story itself was good, and it was heartwarming for a Christmas read. So yeah, that's all I'll say. It makes me want a Christmas quilt though. I know y'all see this cover and you're like, I don't know about this, but it really was a good read. Okay, then we've got Beneath the Bending Skies by Jane Kirkpatrick. If you're not someone who's into historical, you're probably not going to love this because it doesn't really have much romance. It's got some like backstory, but it's primarily historical fiction. This is all about a real person, so that was cool. I have a whole review on this, but this is about Molly Sheenan, and this is wild. It's set in 1860s Montana. Her father goes missing. He comes back. There's all this drama with her dad, and so we follow like her whole life story here of leading up to her getting married and her father's kind of controlling, so it's wild. You know, I still think it's a 5-star read. It's not one of my top 10 like I thought it would have been, but I still wanted to mention it because it was so awesome to read about a true pioneer woman, you know, in Montana, and just everything in her journey. So yeah, I'm not gonna say too much more about this since I talked a lot about this already, but yeah, I really enjoy this. It's a Christian historical fiction. Then we got In Search of a Prince and To Win a Prince by Tony Shallow. Tony Shallow has become a new favorite author. I gave this one 4.5, so I'm not gonna talk too much about this, but To Win a Prince, I gave 5 stars. I loved it so much more than this, but still they're both really great. The cover of these are always amazing. Y'all already know, just look at this. So, I mean, this one's pretty much about Brielle, who realizes that she is supposed to be princess of a kingdom off the coast of Africa, and she has to go there. She meets her grandfather for the first time. There's all this crazy stuff going on. Has to find a prince to marry, of course, and the rest goes on from there. Then we've got her friend Iris, who we follow in this story, and everything. I don't really want to say too much, but we got her and this guy Econ. They end up being like business consultants together, and he is not really a believer, but it has just such a beautiful salvation story, and I loved everything about this one. So both are great. Love this one a little bit more, but both are great. Then of course we got Wishtress Effect, Nadine Brandes. I was just so invested in this. Read the first chapter. You're going to be obsessed. I was obsessed. It's a great Christian fantasy. It has some really good Christian allegory that I personally could see. Wow, just some great things. And even Chrissy was able to like tie some direct scriptures to some things, and it was great to have that discussion with her. I just love this book. Chrissy, Sky, Lindsay Lemus, and I read this pretty much within the same weeks of each other. We love this. We just love this so much. Mirth, her tears grant wishes, and she ends up being cursed. I won't say why, but she ends up being cursed right at the beginning of the story. Things kind of unravel. Her next tear will kill her. That's all we need to know. I've always said that's all we need to know. But for this guy, Bastian, he comes in and he can like stop time. There's all this stuff with him. It's just a good story. And for me, fantasy can be really hard. I have to take notes and kind of try to really pay attention to things. I was able to follow this pretty easy. So yeah, definitely in my top 10. Do I have a top 10? I could tell you probably not, but I keep saying, oh yeah, this is my top 10. This is my top 10. They all are my top 10. We have The Blue Castle by Ellen Montgomery. I really enjoyed this. I really related to the main character in this, just from things. I don't even know how to explain it, but yeah, I just really related to her. This is a really great adult coming of age story. Our main character is Valancy, however you want to say it. She's 29 years old. Everybody pretty much telling her what to do with her life. She's picked on, and she pretty much claps back. And I know that she does come off kind of as rude. I feel her. I feel her in so many ways and things in my own life, so I can definitely relate to some of the things with her. She meets this guy Barney, and they have this relationship. I don't even know how to best explain this other than it's a beautiful coming of age story, and I highly recommend it. Okay, it's a good classic, really easy classic to get into. I'm so glad I read it. It's a standalone of Ellen Montgomery's. So if you're looking to read an Ellen Montgomery, read it. Okay, now we're really getting into the top 10 because look at this. Voice in the Wind and Echo in the Darkness. I think I like book 2 better just because of the emotion I felt, but both of these, like this one I read over the course of a week or so. Like the first little bit took me a little bit to get going. I still gave it 5 stars. But this one I read in one day. Okay, so love these so much. They're faith-filled, just great biblical fiction stories. It's all about Hadassah. She has lost her entire family right at the beginning of the story. She is sold into slavery to be a housemaid for a Roman family. There's a little bit of a budding romance happening. She is showing the love of the Lord in this family. It's so good. Things that are forgiven in this, wow. These were just so good. Don't even need to say nothing else, right? Then Anne of Green Gables. I don't even know what else to say about this. We've already had some pretty good conversations here. I mean, if you ain't read Anne of Green Gables, please do. I still need to watch the show. I've got it on DVD. I still ain't made it there. She lives off the page. She has such a fervor for life. We love Anne. That's all we need to know, okay? This story is in the late 19th century. It's following Matthew and Marilla, their brother and sister, and Matthew goes to get this to get a boy they're going to adopt this boy to live with them to help take care of things on the farm. And they end up adopting Anne instead by mistake. And it's the best mistake that's ever happened to them. And it's just a beautiful story. And she really does have like these humble beginnings. My heart. She is so just amazing. And I love this book. It's timeless. I love her excitement for life. She's just so refreshing. So, and then I have Shaken by Tim Tebow and Mission Possible by Tim Tebow. These are up there in my nonfiction reads. I love these so much. I think I like Mission Possible a little bit better. Like, I've tabbed these. This is annotated to the nth degree. I mean, look at this. ASMR. But I took so many notes in this. This is all about his, not all about, but mostly about his, the Tim Tebow Foundation. Just his Not to Shine project. He helps kids with special needs. There's some stories about kids with autism. There was an organization that's close by that was mentioned, close by to me, that was mentioned here that I recognized. It was just a more personal book to me than this one, but this was still really good. Like, we learned all about going through rejection and some things with him in football, and I really like football. So Tim Tebow's just a really class act, and I really like these. So I highly recommend these, and he has so much faith in these. I love it. Then we have The Blackout Book Club by Amy Lynn Green. It's got so many characters. This is a really great historical fiction. I'm gonna have to look at my notes on this. So this story, we are following 4 really great women and their personal stories and how they're all connected by this simple book club. Avis, she's not really like a reader, but she makes this book club because Louise is deciding to close the library. So she kind of makes up this book club to help, saying she's gonna help out with the war effort because of blackouts and all that stuff during that time. But the result was a group of people that came together, each with their own challenges that they formed these friendships that last a lifetime. They created these bonds. It was amazing. So I highly recommend this. If you like a good World War II story and female friendships, just friendships in general, you're going to really like this. Apple Cider Slaying by Julianne Lindsay. And I absolutely love this. I give this 5 stars. It's one of my favorite cozy mysteries of the year. Probably it's the favorite cozy mystery of the year for me. And I loved it. It had the perfect amount of mystery, fall, and Christmas vibes, a little bit of romance, some Southern charm, great characters, the whole 9 yards, y'all. And it didn't have any language. It's completely clean. I can't wait to read more of the series. There's only 2 more books after this, so definitely gonna get to that in 2023. It's set in West Virginia, and it follows Winnie Montgomery. She's trying to get like business going for her granny's apple orchard, and they've got kind of like a Christmas event happening, and Winnie is also looking to start her own apple cider shop for it to be year round. So this man is there, and he's like a banker, and he is at the beginning of the book trying to assess the area to get her a business loan, and they end up walking around and they see Granny's nemesis dead in the apple press. Not good. So everything goes on from there because Granny is implicated as the perpetrator. As usual in cozy mystery fashion, we gotta try to clear Granny's name. I love the Granny. Her Granny was amazing. Reminded me of my own grandparents. I love a story that has a Granny in it because it always reminds me of my grandmother. Such a good story. Yeah, I highly recommend this if you're looking for a good cozy mystery. So much fun and a really good clean read as well. Now, y'all already know this is in my top 5 right here, okay? And that is Authentically, Izzy, Pepper Basham. I just feel like this book was written for me. I did a whole video, themed vlog. Y'all already know. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but this is just a special book to me, especially after having several chats with Pepper and just back on Instagram, back and forth. She's such a nice and kind soul. And then she sent me this special copy. My heart. I cannot recommend this enough. And I mean, this book does have a lot of epistolary things like emails, and text messages, and that can be hard for some. And I definitely acknowledge that, because if I listened to the audiobook mostly, and if I would have sat down and physically read it, especially on ebook, I would have struggled probably. Like, I had the NetGalley copy, and it had bad formatting all over the place. Like, so that's typical with NetGalley, but so in an epistolary novel, it's even worse because they don't have the correct spacing in the NetGalley copies and stuff, so it was hard. So I highly recommend the audio if you struggle with epistolary novels. This is like, I'd say most, like 90% in letters. Not letters, emails and text messages. So But with that said, I love the characters in this. Like, I don't know, I felt like I was Izzy, you know, like me and her, like the same, okay? Like, there's just something about it. But, okay, I should tell you what this is because some people may not know what this is, but I think all y'all pretty much know because you watch my stuff. As a Southern girl who loves Lord of the Rings, Andy Griffith, all things Scottish, this was for me. Izzy Edgewood and her cousin sets her up on this dating site, and she ends up meeting this guy named Brody, who is like Brody the Hobbit, and so they have like this interaction because her profile picture is set up as Eowyn from Lord of the Rings, so all the messages she's getting is funny, so there's lots of great humor in this, and he ends up sending her like a fun message and signs it as Brody the Hobbit, and the rest is history, okay? He lives in the Scamarian Islands, which is a made-up place, but it's really pretty much like Scotland. I picture him as Scotland. The narrator for him, I'm just saying, he is so good. He did such a great job narrating Brody, okay? And I love that we have, like, different narrators for female and male characters in this. That always helps as well. The accents were great. We had some Southern characters, like the narrators. I'm just saying, okay? Luke was hilarious, like, which is her cousins and stuff. Like, they just cracked me up. And so, yeah, I don't know. I just had a good time with this. The romance was so cute. There's a couple little things I could say I didn't love, but I still overall love this because it just, at the time I read it, it was in my heart, my feels, and I just felt the vibes, and I needed this book in my life. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, 5 out of 5. It's like one of my top books of the year, okay? For real. We are nearing the end. I'm sorry, but okay, Catching Christmas, what am I saying? The White Christmas Inn. I have been filming too long. Catching Christmas is after this. White Christmas Inn. I've already talked about this pretty recently, so I'm not going to go into it, but this is a really cute, heartwarming story about characters that end up being trapped in an inn, and everything goes on from there. Like, there's a snowstorm. We love a good snowed-in trope. We got all these different characters that tie in together somehow. Each one is like going through their own little thing, and it's just a beautiful story. So heartwarming and cozy as all get out, okay? This is a heartwarming read with a sweet romance, but it is emotional. So it does deal with a grandparent who is sick and has dementia. So if that's something that's hard for you, please just go in knowing that. This is basically all about Finn. He's a cab driver. He used to be like a gourmet chef. He is struggling financially, so he has to be driving around the cab and everything. He meets this lady, Callie, who is the grandmother of Sydney, and Sydney is struggling in her job because they're letting people go, and she doesn't know if she's going to get let go, so she really needs this job. She's a first-year law associate, and so she doesn't have the capability and the time and resources to help her grandmother who is sick and go to her doctor's appointments. So she's trying to check in on her. She's just got so much going on. So she calls this cab company and says, hey, can you all go and take my grandmother to the doctor? And Callie gets Finn. And Finn, he's at first kind of like, look, I need my money. Like, why? Because Callie keeps calling him after this. She can't remember anything. It's so sad at the beginning there. Like, just to see how the struggles of dementia plays a role. But Finn is also struggling with the history of things that were left bad with him and his mother before she passed, and so he feels this pull towards Callie, and it's just beautiful to see everything like develop the way it did. It's a short read, and I really like the romance. It just touched my heart in a special way, so it's a really good Christmas read. I personally loved it, and yeah, I highly recommend it. Finally, we have The Mistletoe Countess by Pepper Basham. Y'all already know, again, another Pepper Basham. I mean, you know, 5-star, honey. It's the romance for me. Like, this book had such a great romance. It's basically all about Grace. She has to take her sister's place to marry this guy. Hey, that rhymed. To marry this guy, Frederick. Frederick's got this past. There's all this stuff going on. And I loved how Grace and Frederick were getting to know each other in their marriage. Grace pretty much is a realist. She's like, look here, you ain't doing this, so I'm going to take care of business. You're going to have to do the truth, tell the truth. And to her sister, there's all these circumstances surrounding, I ain't going to say, but why she has to take her place is like wild. So she takes her place and everything goes on from there because, you know, she has to go off to where Frederick lives. People don't really care for her there, but she's trying to make the best of it. The romance for me, it's just so wholesome and refreshing, and I loved it. It's not really like Christmassy, I wouldn't say, but it has a little bit, but like this is more of like a winter read in my mind. But still, it's a good book to read at Christmas time. So hey, we love this cover. Ain't that cute? So book 2 actually comes out. It's like a mystery. There's some mystery aspect in this as well. I forgot to say that, which I love. And so mystery in the second book. primarily, I'm pretty sure. We love to see it. So it's called The Cairo Curse, and I can't wait to read it. So yeah, that's it. I mean, I had some honorable mentions, but at this point I can't. So y'all already know. I'm gonna really try to cut back on the 5-star. I'm just kidding. What am I saying? But for real, like, I feel like I rated a lot 5 stars this year just because I was loving everything I was reading. But now I'm pretty sure that I'll try probably more to be like, okay, a 4-star is still really good, you know? Like, remember that. So, it's okay. Anyway, I'm so long-winded too, so I'm really sorry this is so long. But anyway, I love y'all. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Let me know down in the comments below anything about these books, anything y'all want to chat about, anything at all. Let me know your favorite book of 2022, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye, y'all.